Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is Gexu talking to you today. And today, in this fine tutorial about landscaping and terraforming in general, we are starting off here in an old single player world of mine. Because the basic point I want to get off to you right here at the start, and this is of course my idea, you don't have to agree with it, but let's take a look on why you actually want to do a little bit of landscaping and terraforming. If we look at this, you could say randomly generated hill from the Minecraft world itself. You can think it's pretty, you can think it's not pretty. However, I would argue that this hillside is far more beautiful to look at, far more pleasing to look at, and there's a lot more going on without it being too much. You got a little bit of greenery, you got a little bit of water going on, and you got a little bit of dirt to the side of that, instead of that this... Yeah, I prefer this one. So, let's talk about how you do that. And to do that, we need to go through 5 steps. The first step is, of course, the planning. And for that reference, I will guide you to another video I made where I planned out the build that we are going to build together. Because that build is huge. But the planning phase is a very, very important one. And let's jump into another world and let's take a look on that. Welcome to this wonderful world that we're going to work in. No, it's just replay mod screwing up a little bit sometimes. Sorry about that. Anyway, when you are doing the first thing in the planning, you plan out where everything goes. The next thing you want to do, in my opinion, and the way I do it, is clear the canvas. That is what's done in the episode 28. The planning was 27 in the episodes. Link in the end screen. The next after that is, of course, the mapping. And the mapping is done mainly with I have done it with wool blocks, you can say. That's where you take your planning and plot it on the canvas to say, okay, where do I want things to go? For example, what we're working on here is a little lake. I have planned out I want a little lake under the little railroad. Over here, I said there's a little lake in the first place. Let's expand it. Let's make a bigger lake. Let's make something that we can actually work with. Make a little river coming to it, a river coming out of it, something like that. And that's the whole idea of the, you can say, the mapping phase, is getting the ideas you have in your head, getting them down on the ground, getting them down on the canvas, if you will. This part of here wasn't the canvas, basically, it wasn't cleared, because I thought, it's okay as it looks, so I continue with that. But I added in all of the wool to kind of say, okay, where do I want the roads to go? Where do I want the rivers to go? Where do we want the lakes to go? And all of those things, because you can have it in your head, but sometimes it doesn't work out when you put it down in the blocks. And that is why you kind of map it out first and say, okay, I got this idea, and now I'm trying to put the first few blocks down to say, can this actually work or can it not? For example, you will see a little bit later, I will come back to that little lake there because it was basically too small. And that's some of the things you figure out when you're doing your mapping out is, will these things work together as I intended when I built it? And again, this is where we come down and say, okay, this little area is way too small for the lake, so we're adding a little edge to it, a little bit more, and that's a good thing. When you're done with all of this, when you're done with all of your ideas on that point, you are going to go on with the shaping. And the shaping is kind of interesting because it's not mapping, but it's mapping. Yeah. It's very close together. Alright, this shaping phase, as said, I want to go over it a little bit more in depth, because this is where everything comes together. This is where everything is finally starting to look like a different build, instead of, for example, this big flat area. So, the shaping phase. The shaping phase is all about getting all of the groundwork in place. Where do we want a hill? Where do we want a little hole? Where do we want all of those things? And how are those things working together? So, to illustrate that, you can see this stone road. It's symbolizing the road that we are going to build, but at the moment just a bunch of stone. So this is where the road will go. The road will go down this way, and you can see it going a little bit up and down all the way. But we also got this hillside over here from the mountain, and we want to incorporate these two together, and we want to make this somewhat semi-beautiful. That's the whole goal. So if we start out with just quickly grab a little bit of blocks and let's see. Okay, we want to go a little bit further down. And the reason in this case is I want this road to be a little bit more elevated than the rest of the area. And why don't I have my shovel on me? That's stupid. So what we're going to do, you can say this stone should be one higher than the area itself. So if we just start out by making this flat platform, you can say, okay, we got the level right, we got the height in place on this side of the road. However, we also need to incorporate it into this mountainside. And how to do that? So if we, for example, take down this one and take it down one block further down to create this little bit more hole, and over this side we kind of work these together and create a little bit more like a more decent way of this mountain to unfold, if you can call it, to get down here. So we got this mountainside that's coming on the mountain, then we got this little break, and this is here where I think, okay, we probably want to do something like that with the shaping, so that you can say this road is higher. You get this height variation between the road and the mountainside, and that height variation that's the whole idea of the shaping. Where is the hill going to go? Where is the mountain going to go? So if we continue that pattern and trying to mark out where things should go and go out, let's go somewhere out here. So like that, you can see over here what we want is again something like that, and then it's one further down again, because this is the road that is, you can say, getting the framework in place. So we want to follow the road, we want to follow the height of the road. So if we continue to fill in that, and there we can go up and do that, which means that this is where things probably start to get a little higher. And let's just do something like that to add a little bit more right feeling to it, because this is a little bit too straight. We don't want that, and that needs to go down one block again to add this shape and add this different variation. Okay, on this side, however, you can see we got this mountain wall, and we need to incorporate to this area down here. And how to do that? That's the whole idea of the shaping. You want to do something a little bit like this, just basically plop down a little bit of blocks, but trying to ensure that you got nowhere where you got, for example, if we remove this block, you got 4 in a row there. That's a little bit to the not so pretty side, so to say. So we want to ensure that we don't have too many of those if we can. So over here again, we just fill in that again. Maybe we should, yeah, if we do something like that instead, that's better. That gives a little bit of variation to it. And again, we incorporate this mountainside nicely down to this area. And if we continue it again, you can see, oh, people are joining. That's wonderful. Oh, if we go up here, now you can see we got this height variation going between the road side here and this side, and that's exactly what we want. We want this to look like the mountainside has come down, and a little bit of flattening. It goes a little bit on a plateau-like state, and then it will continue down on this side over here. But to do that, we of course need to get this whole side over here in place to know exactly how this area over here will look. Because if you look at the mountain like going down, then it will plateau out and going down again. That's what we're trying to achieve with this shaping of this area in general. So if we continue over here and just add in a lot of lovely blocks like that, trying to get, say again, not too much of these, where you can say we got 3 or 4 blocks of the same in a row. We don't like that. That's not pretty. It's not looking that good when you look at it. So here we got a problem in that department, and we need to do a little bit of terraforming, because this can probably go like that. Okay, however, there we go on that department. Remove that one and instead stick that one maybe somewhere like there. You can see we got 3 blocks suddenly we need to work with, and that is what is going to give us a little bit of trouble down here, because yeah, you can see that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good. So what we are going to do is we are going to bring this hole down as well. Oh. And why people? Come on, sleep. That's the most annoying part of being multiplayer. However, now Let's continue. If we continue this pattern down, and you can see we want it to end down here at this level. This is where we can see, okay, how much can we actually work with? How far can we take things downwards and make them look pretty at the same time? How much space do we have to work with? And that's the shaping part. That's where things get a little bit tricky, but also where things come together, so to say. So if we break that down once again and just do something like that, maybe we add that one there and remove that one, add that one instead to add this little depth area, and we can just fill in this area over here as well. And that one is probably going to go down there instead. Yep, it is. There we go. Much better, much better. And you can see we're adding this little area. Let's move that one a little bit more. Yeah, we add a little bit more detail to it, but also a little bit more shape to the area. Maybe we do something like that instead and remove that one. Nope, that one. There we go. Okay. Yep, much better. You can see this shaping is coming together, tying this area together and tying this area. Okay, let's continue with this one, because this one is annoying. So, we got a problem. We need to fix this one, and we need to tie it together beautifully with the rest of this mountainside. So if we're removing that one and that one, you can see this is helping a little bit. Okay, so if we plop down some blocks there and there, I think that is, yep, that's going to work. However, this is not working out because you can see we got 4 blocks and we got 4 blocks. Nope, not going to work. So if we move that one and maybe extend it out a little bit on this side instead, something like that, and maybe add in that one, I think that could work. Yep, and let's remove that one. Okay, let's see how that looks. Oh. Need to do something over here as well, just to add in this little bit of detailing. And you can see this is where the shaping phase is different and difficult in general, because how do we ensure that this is looking great, but we also got the shaping and difference in the height that we want? So the shaping area and the shaping phase is not an easy one. It's going to take some time, and there's nothing right and wrong. Why am I translating for the area? There's nothing right and wrong in this. It's all about what looks good. So if it looks good, wonderful, continue with it. If it doesn't look good, oh, come on. If it doesn't look good, change it. That's the like in the mapping phase, change it if it doesn't work. This is a little bit better, I would say. I still don't like that one. Yep, that helped definitely. Alright. You see this area is looking way more better. We have connected this mountainside to this area down here. And we have done that all the way over to here. So that's the whole shaping phase. Let's take another example. Alrighty, another perspective you can have is now you sitting there on the bench. No. If you look from up there, you can see what we're trying to achieve in this section is the same as everywhere else. But we need to incorporate this hillside over here, where we are placing blocks at the moment, with this pathway over here. And how to do that is always a good question. How to do that is always a lovely question. But as you can see, we are just slowly placing down some blocks, trying to get an idea of how things should go. And this is always a tricky one. But if we jump up there and kind of get it a little bit in place, and then we can start to take it down one more block. The same over here, take it down a couple of blocks like that, maybe add one there and do something like that. Over here, let's do something like that. Yeah, I think that's good. However, we will probably give you something like this instead. Yep, that helped on that one. However, this area over here is it's pretty good, but we need to work a little bit more with something like that, I think. Yeah, yep, that's better. That's definitely better. So you get this little pathway going down, and then maybe something like that instead, it seemed like. Yeah, something like that instead. Let's remove that one. Alright, and you can see if we just remove those, this area as in here are also looking pretty good. However, just behind us, if you look at that, I think we need another block there, maybe. And maybe if we then do something like that and try and take this one down a couple of blocks, just trying to, and this is all, you know, trial and error. There's nothing right and wrong in terraforming like this. It's just a matter of placing down some block and see, okay, does this look good or not? And I think that's better from up here. Yeah, definitely better. So if we take that all the way across like that and just fill it in somewhere like that, yeah, I think that's good. And over here we can do the same. Remove a couple of blocks down here and add this nice little trim of grass, because what you can also do in the planning in this phase, and what you definitely should try and do, is trying to add a little bit of depth in the whole area itself. So if we take this area, let's add a little bit more blocks like that. I think is good. Yep, it's looking better. So if we take over to this area, I think if we add in this little variation like that, and you see we're just trying to add this whole area to give it a little bit more blocks, and also to add a little bit more steady slope to it. Instead of just having a very hard slope that's just straight down to the ground, we're adding in a little bit more steady slope to it, which is always a good thing. It doesn't have to do it, but it helps a little bit more on how things look if it isn't that hard of a slope. You can use them, and you can use them very efficiently, but sometimes it's better just to go with a steady slope for many things in general. Alright, so that is pretty good, I would say. If we then go maybe a couple of blocks in, just something like that, fill those in as well. There we go. What we can do now is trying to add a little bit more depth to this area. And how do we do this? We do this basically really simple by digging out this area down here. So we go below the area that we are already working on, which is 63 in this case. And by adding this, you're adding a little bit of depth to the area. So what this will do, if we're just trying to mine out a little bit more area, so we've got a little bit more working space. If we add in this area and try something like that, I think is good. Yeah, we want to move that one over here, I think. Something like that. Yep, definitely better. Right, so if we try to do something like this, you can see what this gives us is a little bit more of a area with a depth in it, but also an area with something to look at in general. Because if we just had this flat area, let's go up to the walkway, you can see adding in this little depth, this little hole down here is giving it a little bit more life to the area, which is one of the things that we really want to achieve when we are doing a lot of terraforming, is to make the area come alive, to make this area feel natural as well. And you can find big flat areas, but in most common areas you will find small holes like that. And then maybe over here we can try and add a little bit of a hillside again. Oh, and you can't see it. Let's just move down a little bit. There we go. And you can see this area is coming together. So if we take this area, I'll respond to green in just a moment, and try add in a little hillside as well. Trying to, you can say, add to this area, but also to give it a little bit more depth over towards the middle, because we could add a big flat area more or less where the stone sits out here, where you can see to the right of me, right over here. We could add a big flat area like that, but in general that doesn't look that good. So if we take this little mold, whatever it's called, and add just a tiny bit to it, trying to add a little bit of depth to the area. So let's do something like that. I think that's looking pretty good. Yeah, that's looking good. Right there. Alright, and if we just do something like this to it, it gives us a little bit more depth to the area. So if we are going up to the area, let's change over. There we go. So if you imagine going down this area right here, coming down this path, you can see looking over this side, you got this wonderful little hole in the ground, so to say, and you got this little mold over here as well, which is adding a lot of depth to the area. So that's what you're trying to do in this whole of the shaping phase, and it's taking a lot of time. It's a very challenging phase. It's a phase that takes a lot of time to get all of these small details in place, height-wise and wide-wise, and in general in the elevation of the area. So let's try and get this whole area done, and I will talk a little bit about Terraform in general while we do that. So in general, when one does terraforming and when you are getting through these different phases of the whole build itself, you got that idea of what you want to build, you start placing down the blocks and start seeing things coming together. It's a lovely feeling, to be fair honest with you, and it's a good thing to do. But it's, as you probably know, if you haven't done it already, you will figure that out as well. It's a process, and this process in general takes a very long time. Mainly because you can say the first 4 steps that we are going through in this video, which is of course the planning, the clearing, the mapping, and now the shaping, which we are illustrating here, they take time. Indeed, they do take time to map everything out, to clear everything out, to do all of the shaping that is needed everywhere, to ensure that the landscape that you're looking at got a lot of depth, got a lot of wide, got a lot of variety in it. So you don't have just this flat space, but you got a lot of different things to look at when you are out and about in the landscape. And this whole process takes a long time. It takes a long time to get the blocks right, to get the height right, basically to ensure if I'm making a hole here, does this hole make sense, or should I place it somewhere else? And hold this whole thinking and going back and forth and okay, placing down 10 blocks, going back, take a look at it, does this look right? Going on it again, place a few more blocks, take a few steps back, look at it again, does this look right? This whole process is a long one and it takes a long time, so if it doesn't get right and it don't feel like this looks great the first time you do it, don't worry. It's a long process and you just have to adapt to it and go, okay, this doesn't look like, let's tweak it. And don't get burned out because it doesn't look right after the first 10 times. What we're doing now, for example, I'm preparing a big flat space because I want a little bit of a city here. Does that mean that when I've done the planning and the shaping here, that this area won't be touched anymore except for the small houses and such? No, it doesn't. Because this area, I don't know exactly where the tents will go, where the different huts will go. So this area in general will probably change a little bit when we are going through the last phase, which is the detailing. And it's important that you embrace that change that's going on in your build, because it's going to happen a lot. If you're attempting to do a beautiful build, it takes time, it takes a lot of change, and you need to be prepared to go through this whole change. And as you can see, I'm adding a little bit of depth here, a little bit of wall next to the river, because again the river is the lowest part, and it makes sense to add a little bit of mole here, a little bit of bump in the road, so to say, a little bit of dirt. And then again here on the left side we are adding in this flat area where we are going to have some sense. Will I change things around? Probably will when we get to that area, and it's important to be ready to do that and say, okay, I built this, but it doesn't really fit the theme because I need to place that thing there and that thing here. So you need to be open to do that. But let's move on and let's take a look on what else we have to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is as far as we get in this little episode. And the tutorial is going to be 2-part. Basically because this we have done now with the planning, the clear, the canvas, mapping out the area, and of course the shaping, as I've been doing a little bit here, talking with you about, giving you ideas. Hopefully you can use them, hopefully you get a little bit better, get a better feel about, okay, how do I do this? And if you do, make sure to let me know. I will be happy to hear. If you don't, let me hear what you miss and what you want to hear more about. But I will have to leave you here for this little tutorial. Make sure to check out the second one, which will be coming out in a few days, where we go through the rest of the shaping and the thinking behind that, and the big part, which is of course the detailing. Because even though we can say, okay, we want a lake here, we want a river here and such, if we don't detail it, correctly, this ain't gonna look good. Even though we got a wonderful landscape, it is, and a wonderful terraforming, if we don't have the detail in place, it doesn't look good. So make sure to check in on that. I will leave you here, as said. Let me hear any ideas, comments, suggestions, whatever you got in mind. Actually, let me hear that down in the comment section, and I will see you in the next episode. And hopefully you found a little bit of useful tips in this one. I will see you again. I hope you have some verified dates ahead of you. Bye bye, ladies and gentlemen.